In selection statements, we learned if, select, and switch. How to use these two. So if select, we have if else. In that we have switch, case, and default. These are the options. Some examples we learned about all the selection statements. So after this, we will use in various other examples also. Syntactically, we learned in how many ways switch can be defined, right? Next, after understanding this, we have looping control statements. We have looping control statements. Looping control statements, what are those and how to use them? Actually, looping control is nothing but looping is the process of executing a set of statements repeatedly until the given condition is satisfied. That is looping actually. Looping is technically, looping is the process of executing some set of statements repeatedly until the given condition is satisfied. So actually, looping comprises of three basic things actually: initialization, condition, and counter. It contains three things: initialization, condition, and counter. We have three important phases. Initialization indicates when to start. Condition indicates when to stop. And counter indicates how to proceed. Proceed to next or proceed to previous. So initialization defines when to start, and condition defines when to stop, and counter defines how to proceed, right? So this is three options.
Recording in progress.
For example, if start number is 5, then it should print 5 numbers after it. That means 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If start number is 1, 5. If start number is 25, 26, 27, 28, like that. That means from the start number, it have to print 5 numbers. Generally, what we do, program we have to write like this. Actual general point I am telling. So we have start number. So plus 1. So that is thus next number. This will store in a result. That will store in a result. After that, we have to create another result. In that, result plus 1. After that, another result. So again, it is result plus 1. That means actually what happens if start number is 5, then what it will be? Result will be 5 plus 1. That means it will be 6. After that, 6 plus 1. That means it result will be 7. Again, result is 7. 7 plus 1. That is 8. Like this, I have to write. I want this how many times? 9, 10 times. Means 5 times I have to write. That means same work is done 5 times, but result is different. So if the same work have to be done again and again, evaluating a different result, then instead of writing 5 lines, this you can manage by using a loop. We can do that by using a loop. Suppose I have to print 20 numbers, then 20 times I have to write. But now you can solve this problem by using a simple loop. So without loop also we can manage, but we have to do like this. So how we can manage this by using a loop? Actually, loops are defined. Loops are defined by using 3 important statements. We have for, we have while, and we have do while. We have for, while, and do while. What is difference between these 3? When to use for, while, or do while? Actually, in other programming languages, they are very helpful in different stages, different phases. But in JavaScript, we don't need all these 3. Because if you remembered, I told you arrays. In other technologies, array size is fixed. But in JavaScript, array size can change. In other technologies, arrays are similar type. Here we can have different type. That means in other technologies, the list is standard. It cannot change. But in JavaScript, list is not standard. It can change. Due to that, for example, see now, suppose we have 2 requirements. Suppose we have a drop down, and in this drop down, we have a drop down, and in this drop down, suppose we have a list of 10 cities. 10 cities list is there, and this list is fixed. No extra city will be added. No city will be removed. We have a fixed list. This will never change. In that case, that is one list. We have another one. Suppose we have database. We have a database. In the database, we have some data. This is some users data. New users can register. For example, new user can subscribe. Existing users may unsubscribe. So list is not constant. It is changing. So new people are coming, existing people are removed. So it is not standard list. In that case, now how to read these 2 lists? One list is standard. It will never change. Another list is not standard. It can change. Actually, in computer programming, for is used for list that cannot change dynamically. That means for is a looping control statement. We use this for looping control statement for a list which cannot change dynamically. Which cannot change dynamically means you started reading A, B, C one by one, you started reading. While reading, when you started reading, how many users are there? Suppose 10. You started 1, 2, 3 reading. By the time you reach 10, one more user registered. That means in between, the list changed. But you are still reading. Your reading started. Before you reach the end, one more person added. Now for loop cannot change the counter. That means at the time of reading, how many it fixed? 10. Then it will stop at 10. The new people registered, it cannot read them. That is for loop. So when to use for loop? When we know the exact number of iterations and we are sure that iteration counter will not change. When you are sure about iterations and iteration counter cannot change, then we can go with for loop. So for which list for is better now? For drop down or for database? So for is good for which one? Drop down. It is not good for database because database changes. For that, what we do is, for that we use other loops called while and do while. So as a developer, when to use for and when to use while and do while. So first we will see what is the for loop. For loop. Actually, it is a looping control. It is a looping control statement used by developers when exact number of iterations are known. When exact number of iterations are known and iteration counter will not change dynamically. It will not change dynamically. That means once the iteration started, it will not change dynamically. Counter is fixed. For that, for loop is good. Actually, here, when we are writing for loop, the basic syntax will be like this. We have a for, we have initialization, we have condition, and we have counter. For contains 3 phases: initialization, condition, counter. Initialization tells when to start. Condition tells when to stop. Counter tells how to proceed. How do we proceed? For example, see here means how do we define? Let's take one simple example here. So this is our project, yeah, and add a new file, loop. Yeah, let's write a script here. So in the script, so function, just I will give just for var initializer. That means I will start from 1. That is initialization, from where to start, where to end, when I less than or equal to 10. When I is less than or equal to 10, then stop. Okay. So after reading the first one, how to proceed to next? That means the counter. Here you can give some plus plus, or you can give minus minus, you can give plus I plus equal to 2, anything. That means how many counters you want to skip. That means I want only one, then I plus plus. That means what will happen? I will start with 1, it will continue until it is 10, and after 1, this is the step value. How many iterations it have to step? It have to step 1 iteration. Plus plus means I equal to I plus 1. That means increment by how much? 1. We can increment by 2, 5, anything. So we have to print the value document dot write. We will print I and br. This is the basic. That means when the loop starts, the I value will be 1. After printing 1, then what it will do? It will verify, is it less than 10 or not? If it is less than 10, it will increment. That means I value will be incremented by 1. 1 plus 1. That means I value will be 2. And after that, it will print that 2. After printing 2, it will again verify, is it less than 10? If it is less than 10, it will continue, again increment. That is 2 plus 1, 3. And it will print 3. After that, this will continue until I is equal to 10. Once I is equal to 10, that will come out of this loop. That means it will print 10 times the value of I. That is what actually it is doing. Now you see here, it is going to print all the numbers from 1 to 10. It will print the numbers from 1 to 10. This is performing iteration here. Now here so many points are there. This is looping. That means the same statement repeats again and again until the given condition is satisfied. Now here so many technical points are there. That means this is an example here, basic example. Here so many technical points are there. Like you can define initialization, condition and counter. You can define initialization, condition, counter outside for container. You can define initialization, condition, counter outside, but it must have configuration for all 3. It must have configuration for all 3, but you can initialize anywhere. What does that means? Here it is nothing but we are saying that this initialization is optional, not required. No need to initialize in the for loop. You can write that outside, but configuration must be there. That means you can define outside. I will print how many numbers? Suppose 5 this time. But initialization is not in the for loop. Initialization is outside the for. But this semicolon is mandatory. That is configuration. That means it says that first place is initialization, second place is condition, third place is counter. All 3 places are compulsory, but defining them is not compulsory. That means for must contain configuration for all the 3, but declaration can be anywhere. Like you see now, I am changing the declaration outside and you can refresh here, it is working fine. But this time it is defined here. How you can configure condition? You can remove condition from here and you can write the condition here. If I less than 5, less than or equal to 5, then print this. You can do it like this. What about counter? What about counter? Counter is this one. You can remove from here. You can remove from here and you can keep this counter. So after this, you can write like this. Why? Because now what will happen? It will print first I value. I value is how much? 1. After printing, it will increment. Because I value is less than 5. Na? If it is less than 5, it will enter into this. After that, it will increment. After increment, then it will continue again. That means a for loop can be written without initialization defined, without condition defined, without counter defined. Where defined? Inside the for. But they must be defined outside or inside the block. That means loop should contain a initializer. You can keep it outside the for. Loop should contain a condition that you can check inside the for. Loop should contain a counter that you can keep inside the for. Not required to configure inside the method. Right? If anybody gives a syntax like this and say, is this valid? Many people will give wrong answer because they don't know that for loop can be written without initialization, without condition, and without counter. Right? Even you learn Java, .NET like technologies, very rarely some people know these techniques, that these are written outside also. We can write outside, right? We can configure them like that. Technically, this is the mechanism of initialization. You can configure all the 3 in this way. But remember, not only that, one more point is, I told you the counter can be multiple. Counter can be multiple. That means step value can be multiple. How the step value can be multiple? Suppose I am writing for where I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10, then I is equal to I plus 2. You can write like this. That means document dot write value of I. That means what it is going to do? It is going to print by step value 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. That means how much the step value should be. You can decide. You can increment or you can decrement. Anything can happen. You can configure in any step value. You can configure for with any step value, any counter. So this is increment or decrement. We can define any counter, increment or decrement. But for loops are not great for modern programming. That's the reason very rarely we use this. We don't prefer this. Time waste. This is, we don't prefer this much. So because in the modern programming, always we prefer iterations, not loops. So that means the best practice is using iterations, not loops. Iteration is better than loop. That is the reason if you see still people writing loops for various purpose, that means they don't know modern programming. Right? In modern programming, we don't write these for loops anymore much. Why? Because lot of nonsense this is, right? So in coding, I will show you. For example, what is problem in this? See, then what we do, we use iterations. For example, what is the problem in this. See, suppose we will try to do the same what we have done earlier with arrays. Here I will create some list. Okay. This is like loop. Okay. Yeah. Here we have an ordered list. Now I need to create here a script and with var some menu. Menu is an array of objects. It have category. Category is electronics. In that we have products. Products is again array. We have like TV and we have like mobile. We have another category and another category is like footwear. Footwear and we have products. So products is like we have some Nike casuals and some Liboot, something like this we have. Okay, now we need to present this in an ordered list in a multi-level hierarchy. Multi-level hierarchy means the first level should contain electronics. Under electronics, we need to display child list. So that is TV and mobile. Now, how we do this with loop? Let's see. Body on load, that is body load. Body load, and here on body load we are writing a function body load. On body load we will write a simple for. So here for var I is equal to 0 because array index starts with 0 and I less than until the end of menu. That means how many items are there in menu? 2 items are there. Then we can use menu dot length. It will return the count. How many are there? Because later there can be 3 or 4. We can add or remove items into it. So I plus plus increment by 1. Go to the next one. Now here what we have to do, we have to create a list item. So var li is equal to document dot create element. What is create element? Li. Li dot inner HTML. We have to display menu because you are using a loop. How to access the first item? Menu of I, that is 0. 0 means it will get the first item, this one. So this is at 0 and this is at 1. That means initially I is 0. 0 means the first one will come. In that first one, what is category? We have to get that. Okay, this is fine. Now add this list item into ordered list. That means document dot query selector. We have to add OL dot append child. We have to add the list item. Okay, this looks better. Okay, fine. That means you can see it is going to print that here. Now what I have to do here is, now under this electronics, I have to print all electronic products in an unordered list. That means now inside this loop, menu is having category. Category is what type? String type. It is having another property. What is it? Products. Products is again array. Then we have to write another loop here for. This time j is equal to 0 because I is already taken. J less than menu of I dot products dot length. Then j plus plus, j value should be incremented by 1. Now after this, what we have to do is we have to create a unordered list. That means where ul is equal to document dot create element unordered list. In this unordered list, we have to create unordered list item document dot create element, and this is list item. Now unordered list item dot inner html, we have to display menu of I dot products of j. This is what we have to do. Menu of I is how much? 0. Products of j is also how much? 0. First time. That means it is printing the first item. J of 0 means products 0 means TV. That means it is adding TV in unordered list item. This unordered list item must be added to ul. ul dot append child. Into that we have to add unordered list item, and this unordered list must be added to list item. li dot append child, we have to add ul unordered list here. Now this is going to generate the list in this way. Now this is too much complicated. I, j, 0, 1 index numbers. Same thing we have done earlier, if you remembered. Right, same thing we have done without using loops. But 100 to 100% in every interview, they will ask with loop only show me. But in 100 to 100% in real time programming, we never use loops. But in interviews, they ask only loop. They say that only through loop show me this, because that tells how much level of technology he know, programming, how much perfect he is in programming. If you can do this by yourself, that's enough. This is just only multi-level list. Now imagine table. Right, how do we design a table, and inside table how to present complex data? Now imagine presenting NASA like data. You have seen object in object in object. That means, so this is very complex. This is complete time waste. We never prefer this anymore. In modern programming, I told you, we prefer using internal iterators. Like you learned map, you learned find, you learned filter. Why they are introduced in the modern programming? They were not there in earlier versions, because in earlier versions 8-10 years back, JavaScript means like this. But now JavaScript is so simple, right, but very advanced, because internally they manage. Now this is by using a loop. I will show you. So this is example. This is example using loop. What is the best practice? The best practice using iteration. What is special about iteration? Iteration is a software design pattern. It is a software design pattern used to read elements from a collection in a sequential order. Sequential order. Read elements from a collection in sequential order. The specialty is iteration. Iteration doesn't require. Iteration doesn't require. It doesn't require initialization, condition, and counter. It doesn't require all three. Iteration doesn't require initialization, condition, counter. You don't need to tell where to start. You don't need to tell where to end. You don't need to tell how to proceed. It will take care. That means it will start automatically if there is anything to start. It will stop automatically if there is nothing to read. It will skip to next automatically after reading the first. That's very simple. And you already used iterations actually. Iterations are defined in JavaScript by using for in and for off. What is difference already we know. For in, what it will do? It can read and return all properties. It can read and return all properties. For off, it can read and return all values. You don't need to use any loops. Now same work we see this I, J, menu of I, products of J. This is very complex, right? Now I will remove this here. Okay, I will remove this. So there is no list. Now let's write iterations for where item of collection is menu. There is no initialization, there is no condition, there is no counter. Just you tell the collection and you tell the reference which can store the item in collection. That means now every item in this collection you can read by using this reference. Now it will start reading if there are items. If there are no items, it will stop automatically. That means here what we have to do, where just list item document dot what, create element list item. After this li dot inner HTML item dot category. Now after this add this document dot query selector OL ordered list dot append child. Add that list item. So that is added there. Now inside this we need another iterator for where product of item dot what is the collection products. Now we have to print every product in an unordered list. That means document dot create element. So create element and that is UL and where unordered list item document dot create element. So this is li and unordered list item is nothing but dot inner HTML is nothing but product. That's it. No I, no J, no K references. And add this to unordered list UI dot append child. Unordered list item. That means li dot append child UL. Unordered list is added. Now it is ready. The same work we have done without using any loops. Without using any loops, we can configure. That is actually the example with loops. Loops and iterators. So what you have done in loop, the same iterators, but iterators are faster, iterators are better. So looping controls are required only if there are such references. Already I told you in CSS, SAS. In SAS, what we have done, if I have to refer using index numbers, 1 to 8 or 1 to 10 numbers, then we will go with this kind of loops. Otherwise, loops are not required. If you want to access based on the index is the main priority, then you can go with loops. If your priority is the item, not the index, then we can go with iterators. So that is difference between loop and iterator. Many times people call as iterators or loops. Not or. Iterator is different, loop is different. Many times people think loop and iterations are same. Loop and iterations are not same. Loops use conditions, initialization, counters. Iterators don't use them. And very important is you can you can terminate the loops and iterators by using jump statements. What are the jump statements? We have break, another we have return, and we have continue. Break, return, and continue, these are nothing but jump statements. What is difference? What is break? What is return? Already I told you. Break means it will terminate but will still stay in the function. So return means it will permanently terminate the function and execution. Compiler will stop. Right? So that is difference between break and return. What is continue? Continue is used to skip the counter. It is used to skip the counter. This is very simple actually. How we use, for example, see. Suppose I will give a simple example here. Let's say, yeah, script. I am writing here a function f1 and call the function. Okay. And for where I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. Here we will write a condition. If I is equal to 5, if I is equal to 5, then we are giving break. Document dot write, I am using I am printing the value of I. So what does this means? When it reaches 5, it will stop. When it reaches 5, it will stop. That means actually it has to print up to 10. But when it reaches 5, it is going to stop. So that means now see here, I will refresh, it will stop at 4 because you give an equal. So when it reaches 5, it will stop. It will not continue. That is break. What is return? Return also same. Suppose I given 6, that means it will stop after this 5. That is also same. But yesterday I told you, I showed you already debuggers, how it comes out of the script. We discussed about that. We saw it practically. Return will break will be same. But see, interestingly, continue. When I say continue, when it reaches skip 6, it will skip it. It will ignore it. That means what happens? It will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip, ignore, then 7, 8, 9, 10. That means wherever 6 comes, it will skip, jump. So continue is going to skip the 6. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can skip multiple. Yeah, you know how to do that. Suppose when it reaches, or when it reaches 8 also, it should skip. That means it will skip both 6 and 8. These are very common in general programming. Why they are common? For example, I will give you here simple option, means where we can use such things. I will show you here. So what is break? Already we saw it terminates. It terminates the block, but will stay in function. Return. So it terminates the execution. So and continue. So continue. So it skips the counter and continues to next. It skips the counter and continues to next. For example, one real example I will give here. Suppose we have some details where products is an array. Let's do one thing, like we can use general fetch also, no? Right? I'm using fetch We will use from http fakestoreapi.com/products. It will return all the products dot then. So a callback function and response, and here return response.json, and another then a callback function data. What we have to do is we have to print for var item of data, and document.write, we are printing item.title plus br line break. That means it is going to print all the items here. All the items from that API, it is going to print document.write. Yeah. It is printing all these items. Okay. This is the list of all items. It is printing the list of all items. But I want only, so these are all 20 items it is printing actually. It is printing all the 20 items. But I want to print only the items so whose category is jewelry. Then it's okay. You have find method, filter method we discussed. But here I want to print electronics and jewelry. If any other category comes, skip them. Then how to handle that? That means skip wherever menswear comes, wherever women's wear comes, print only electronics and jewelry. Because here actually in their API, you see fake store API products / categories. What categories they have? They have the categories like we have these categories: electronics, jewelry, men's clothing, women's clothing. Suppose I want to display only jewelry and women's clothing, others should ignore. That means wherever electronics comes, skip. Wherever men's clothing comes, skip. Don't print them. Then how do we do? Here in this for loop, you have to write a simple condition. What is that condition? If item dot category is equal to, what is it? Electronics, or item dot category is equal to, so men's clothing, right? Like this. If it is matching with that, then continue, just continue and print other details. What does this means? Wherever electronic comes, skip. Wherever men's clothing comes, skip. Now you print only others. This is how it can skip the statements. That means it can skip certain conditions. You can see now, I will refresh here. This time it has to print only the products that matches the given condition. You can see here actually it is printing. So electronics. So what we skipped here, men's clothing, na? Men's spelling wrong. Yeah. Men's clothing, right. So it will skip them and it will print all other details. That means it is not going to print all the 20. Yeah, you can see now these are only jewelry products and some women's clothing. Other details are not there. Other details are not printed. Suppose What we will do here, here I am printing the title. We will do one thing so that we can get more clarity. What we will do, item here, item dot title, and we will put here in bold. Okay, and in the bold we will print item dot category also, so that we can see the category. What is that category? We can print that, and we will put a BR. Okay, that's fine, so that we can see only what categories are printed. You can see the category name also, that particular item related category. Now you can see it is printing only jewelry and women's clothing, others not there. That means it is printing only the products that belongs to the women's clothing and jewelry, others not there. That means continue is used for skipping the counter. Wherever that occurs, it skips it and goes to next. That is actually done by using this. This is another example how we can use continue. Break means it will stop there. Return means it will stop and stops the complete execution. So continue means it skips the counter and continues to the next. Ignores that particular counter and skips to the next. That is what actually the purpose of jump statements: break, continue, and return. Later, as basic jump statements here. So how do we work with the statement? Some example already I told you. If you remembered, while working with string functions, I told you. While working with string functions, user ID taken or not, I showed you one example. There we used break, like you can use return also there, right? Some examples in future also we will get. So this is basic how we can use the jump statements. Now here, what is difference? I already told you that loops and iterators difference. Loops depends on initialization, condition, and counter. Iterator doesn't do that. Iterators will simply use a pattern which will read every element from the collection up to end. In between, if you want to stop or if you want to skip, then you can use these jump statements, right? That is important. Now, based on this, you try one exercise, one task I will give you. You try. So a task for you is you design pin validation. You design pin validation. You have to create what pin validation. The task for you is you ask here enter pin, and you give a simple checkbox. They can enter the pin and they can submit. They can submit. They can enter the pin and submit. So just we have a button called submit. Now actually here we have user details. User details is an object which is having pin, right? It is having pin. Pin is some 4502. 4502 is some pin. Okay, now user enters here a pin, some 4503 something. Now very important here, this is entered and submitted. That means it is wrong, right? When it is wrong, it should say invalid pin. It should display invalid pin, and it should say 2 attempts left. Now next time when he entered wrong, again second time, then it should say invalid pin, 1 attempt left. Again he entered wrong, 3 times he entered wrong, then it should block. It should disable that and it should say that blocked. That means for 3 times continuously wrong pin entered, then it should block. And the message should show in decrement. 2 attempts left, 1 attempt left, last attempt. And last attempt also wrong, then block. Block means disable text box, disable button, and display message that block. This you have to try by using loop, right? And this is a compulsory real requirement. Every website you will see this. Banking sites. In every banking site, it is a general requirement. You will see this. And you have to try this by using a loop. That means this verification of number, you have to write in a loop. If 3 times wrong verification done, then it should block, disable everything. Can you try? Yeah, that's, if you can try, that's very good, right? This is actually one concept of working with iterations. Then we will see now other options. What is do, what is while, do while, and how to use them. That we'll see in next session, right? So tomorrow we will finish all the basic language. Now we can start with object-oriented programming in JavaScript. So then more complex things will come, more advanced features will come, that we will start with OOP concepts. That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we'll continue, okay?